This is Andi Purewal for Boxing Social in association with Betfred, and I'm delighted to be joined by Caoimhin Agyarko over Zoom. Caoimhin, first and foremost, how are you doing?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Obviously, it's good to hear you're doing well. And again, I'm hopeful that I've pronounced your last name right there. I've seen a few interviews where people have kind of given you different pronunciations of it, so I'm hopeful that I've given you the right one. But obviously, aside from that, how have you found kind of lockdown, Caoimhin? How have you found the past 3 or 4 months?
Yeah, you got the name and pronunciation right. Thankfully, a lot of people do get it wrong, but no, you got it right. But yeah, no, lockdowns obviously it's been hard. Not being able to train flat out and being locked in and stuff, and not being able to go out and do everything that you normally do in day-to-day life. Thankfully, everything has kind of started going back to normality. And I've just been glad that I've been able to get over to London for training camp over the last 6-7 weeks. And prepare for my next fight.
Let's get into obviously coming back over again into training camp and what have you. How have you found being back in the gym, and for how long have you actually been talking about with Frank and with your management team about getting back onto the July 31st card?
Yeah, it's been good to be able to get back in the gym and train flat out. Obviously, I'm a professional boxer, so training at a high intensity is something that I do regularly, and for that to be taken away it was kind of crap, but I'm glad that everything's back to normal. As soon as Frank and stuff got word that there could be potential shows, I was just told to come back over to London and start preparing. So although the first 4 or 5 weeks I didn't have a confirmed date, I was told that it will be roughly this date and stuff like that. I just trained to what they had told me. They told me that it could be the 1st of August or the second week in August. So I just trained thinking it was going to be that. Thankfully, it was announced that it'll be the 31st of July. So I'm happy about that.
Just talk to me about your opponent, Caoimhin, and what you know about him and what you expect from him.
Well, my opponent's going to be Jez Smith. He's 11-1. For some reason, he's decided to take this fight and move up, I think, a weight or two. I do know that he was preparing for a fight out in Russia or somewhere far. He was preparing for a fight, so I know that he'll be in shape and he'll bring what he can bring and be the best Jez Smith. But I've watched bits and pieces of him. I remember he used to spar down in the gym with Johnny Coyle, so I know a bit about him. And I'm looking forward to the fight and just getting in there and putting on another good performance.
How are you expecting the fight to play out between the pair of you when you are in the ring? Do you expect your styles to clash or to gel?
I feel like Jez is a fighter that comes out all guns blazing for the first couple of rounds and then he kind of dies off. Me as a fighter, I feel like I'm a universal fighter. I can go backwards, forwards, side to side. I box in the back foot, or I can be an aggressive fighter. So I kind of just adopt whenever I'm in there. I don't really go in with any sort of game plan nailed down. Obviously, we have a plan, and I'm going to implement that hopefully. But I just adopt to what they're going to bring on the night, and I think that's what I do best is adopting to what my opponent brings on the night, and that's what brings out the best in me.
Boxing behind closed doors, how would you feel you'll adapt to that? We've obviously seen a couple shows now take place over in the UK behind closed doors. What have you made of them, and how do you feel you will cope doing it yourself?
Obviously, it's not ideal. I've never fought behind closed doors before, and ideally, I would want my friends and family and everyone who comes to support me to be there, because I do think the crowd play a big impact on a fight. But listen, it is what it is. It's going to be on TV, so everyone can still watch it. It won't affect my performance at all. I mean, I've spotted millions of rounds with nobody in the gym, so it's just like that. You go in and you have to perform to your best ability, regardless of who's there and who's not. For me, there's only going to be one outcome, and that being behind closed doors won't impact that.
Do you feel, obviously, with this kind of layoff, it's out of everybody's control, obviously, but with this layoff, we will see ring rust from fighters when they get back in there? Or do you feel that it's certainly, at least in your case, we won't necessarily see any issues like that?
Personally, you won't see that from me. I've been performing the best I've ever performed in my career in the gym. So I feel right now, I feel on top of the world in terms of preparations and stuff like that. For maybe someone like Jez Smith, who hasn't fought since the start of 2019, I think he'll feel a bit of ring rust and stuff like that. I think a lot of other fighters who have been inactive over the last, obviously 2019, started 2020, if they've been inactive, they will feel ring rust because obviously the gyms were closed and stuff like that. So they've had to kind of get themselves in the shape in a short period of time since being out of the ring for a long time.
You mentioned there that Smith, obviously, he hasn't fought since early 2019, and he's coming up in weight. What made you take that fight? Because obviously when people hear that, they'll assume that you'll be not just a heavy favourite, but there'll be a lot of expectation on you to capitalise on both of those factors.
It was a no-brainer for me to take the fight out. Listen, I've said I'll fight anybody at the right time, and if things are right, like money-wise and stuff like that. So I've openly said that, but that's the only opponent we could get. Nobody wanted to take the fight. I had two opponents pull out. It was originally meant to be for a Celtic title against the kid called Mark Kerr. He pulled out. Someone else pulled out, and then I had 4 or 5 good names turn the fight down. Who were a couple were unbeaten. One was 15-0. So for me, it wasn't a question whether I was going to accept or decline the fight. It was right. That's who you're fighting, and as simple as that. Because nobody else wanted to take the fight.
Caoimhin, obviously, just away from that fight, I just wanted to get your thoughts on kind of something that we saw on social media. Yourself and Umar Sadiq kind of having some exchanges there. Just kind of talk me through that and where it all kind of stems from.
Listen, I want to put out there, I have nothing against Umar Sadiq. He's fighting a friend of mine, Lerone Richards. Listen, he was going back and forth on Twitter, put for me what I thought was disrespectful tweets towards Lerone. I just give my opinion on the situation. I was like, show a bit of class. If Lerone wants to put his personal life first and have the birth of his kid before he fights, then so be it. Like every boxing's a very tough sport, and if somebody wants to do that, that's their decision. So I just kind of give my opinion on that. Umar hit back and was just kind of disrespectful towards me, I feel, in terms of being like, if you want to fight for your friend, kind of, it was unnecessary, but he did what he did. I have no hard feelings against Umar, and it was just something that went back and forth on Twitter for a couple hours.
Obviously, yourself and Umar box at different weights, but do you think there is any possibility that I'd imagine it'd be more likely you was to move up than him to move down for a potential bout there?
I couldn't see it because there's potentially me moving down to light middleweight, so I couldn't see it. Anybody who knows me, I'm not the biggest middleweight in terms of height. I am strong, I am stocky, but I'm 5'10" or something like that. So I'm not the biggest of middleweights, but it wouldn't happen unless I somehow grew out of a middleweight and moved up weight. Umar probably would never move down to middleweight because he would never make the weight. But listen, you never know. It could be a catch weight in the future if it made sense. If he had anything to offer me and I had anything to offer him, it could happen in the future. But for now, he's fighting Lerone for the British and Commonwealth, and he's half and I'm on my path.
Just talk to me about that fight as well, Caoimhin, and what do you make of Lerone Richards versus Umar Sadiq when the fight it's been announced, but obviously when a date's announced and the fight does go ahead?
Yeah, it's a good fight. I mean, on paper, for me, there's only one winner. Lerone Richards. I've sparred Lerone. Obviously, he was at iBox as a fighter, and obviously he's moved on. But I've sparred Lerone a couple of times, and I know how good he is. I've watched him in the gym. I've watched him spar world class fighters. So I know how good Lerone is, and I think Lerone wins the fight. I think it can potentially be an ugly fight, because I think it's just a clash of styles. Lerone's a beautiful boxer and likes the box on the back foot, being a counter puncher. Umar is kind of just long, awkward, and he comes and gives it a go. So it will be an interesting fight, and I think for me Lerone wins the fight, but I do think it will come down to who gets the tactics right on the night.
Steve, I also want to touch on your sparring with Billy Joe Saunders. Just talk to me about that and that experience of being in with somebody of Billy Joe's kind of stature in the sport.
Yeah, I went to spar literally just before COVID-19 had happened, and it was unbelievable. It was an unbelievable spar for me. They asked me to come down and spar. Made the trip down to Manchester, did 5 good rounds with him, and I was looking forward to maybe getting some more rounds in with him. But yeah, I learned so much off that. It was a great experience for me, and that's the kind of sparring that I need. That's the kind of opposition that I need to be in the ring with to kind of progress in my career and learn a lot. You know, I mean, you can't buy that kind of experience. That's sparring a 2-weight world champion is unbelievable. So I enjoyed it very much. So and look forward to hopefully getting more rounds in the future.
When you are sparring with somebody like Billy Joe, does he give you kind of not just a confidence, but does he reassure you about your potential future credentials and where your career could lead?
Yes, definitely. Being in the ring with someone like Billy Joe, who's so experienced, and he's been, like, for the last 4 or 5 years, he's been at the top as a world champion. So, being in the ring with somebody like him will definitely tell you what level you're at and tell you how far you can go in the game. For me, I thought I sparred very well, and I learned a lot of that. And I think that's the most important thing, is take what you can take away from the spar and going back and learning and what I did wrong in the spar and stuff like that. So for me, it was a learning curve, and that's what the sport's all about. Going in there and sparring people like that and learning as much as possible.
Caoimhin, we will leave that there now, and I will leave you to enjoy the rest of your day, like I say. But before I let you go, what would you like to say to everyone who tunes in to watch our interview and, of course, ahead of your fight next Friday night?
Tune in Friday night, and I'm sure to put on a good performance, and hopefully you all become fans.
Caoimhin, it's been a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you for your time tonight, and thank you for speaking to Boxing Social.
Thank you very much, mate. Take care.